Heading into the 2023 NFL season, both the Houston Texans and Green Bay Packers were projected to win around 7 games as they made transitions to new quarterbacks. The situations were quite different, as CJ Stroud was the second overall pick Houston fans were hoping could turn around the franchise, while Jordan Love was replacing a legend in Aaron Rodgers for Green Bay. However, they both ended up making it to the postseason thanks to big-time wins over division rivals in Week 18, and would now face top 5 defenses across the league by any metric you want to look at in the Wildcard Round. Yet, while their defenses contributed to the respective totals, they blew out the Browns and Cowboys, scoring 45 and 48 points each. And this video will certainly try to cover the masterclasses both Bobby Slowik for the Texans and Metal Phil for the Packers put on his offensive play callers, but even more so the incredible play of these young star quarterbacks in Stroud and Love to cash in on the opportunities presented to them as they put on a show. Funnily enough, they put up basically identical stat lines. I'll throw up the graphic here from NBC, and now let's dive into what they did on Super Wildcard Weekend. Down in Houston, it looked like we had a surprising shootout on our hands early on, but while the Browns offense stalled a couple of times, the Texans kept their foot on the gas pedal, as Stroud already had 236 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air at halftime, putting them up 24-14, to where the rookie signal caller barely had to do anything in the second half, with the back-to-back pick sixes for Houston off Joe Flacco, followed by one more Texans TD, and then 3 straight turnovers and downs, forced by the defense to close out the day. Second snap for the Texans offense here on 2nd and 7, and this just shows you the confidence this Houston coaching staff has in the young quarterback, even against the ferocious Browns D-line. Ace or double wing set with condensed splits by the wide receivers here. We've got a 7-step drop for Kyle Shanahan and general staple for a zone-based offense, with Slowik coming over from San Francisco along with head coach DeMeco Ryans, as they keep 7 in protection with a skinny post up top and a deep crosser coming from the other side, with the tight end to the bottom releasing late down the numbers. The Browns are in cover 1 on man 3, so the safety has to respect the deep post here. Number 12 Nico Collins does a great job of stemming vertically initially, and then rolls this off across the field to not get undercut by the corner. Let's check out Stroud now. Gets to the top of his drop, we have a slight hitch, and then ball perfectly on the run for Nico, and they get the first big chunk of the day. They would end up having to punt from around midfield, thanks in large part to a horrible drop by tight end Dalton Schultz on a corner or deep out route of the scissors concept that we see right here, to attack another single high safety structure. But the defense would create a stop as well, and they get the ball back in opposing territory already next. Now, this could be an adjustment or option for Nico to turn his route vertically, but I'm guessing looking at the pattern as a whole, this was the call play, but Stroud could throw the slants hot if there was a free blitzer potentially. So they start with a short out motion from Collins out of this stack at the top, and here's the concept. Towards the field, all they're really trying to do is force the defense to stay shallow and get wide, while they have this inside stem post from the slot, and then a sluggo, so a slant and go from Nico. Slowik and Stroud anticipating this field side safety to drop down here, which is exactly what happens as they end up in one dropper, putting Newsome one-on-one with Nico, even though he typically lines up in the slot, and the key here is the eye discipline of Stroud. He starts by opening up towards the field, sees the safety drop down as expected, and then as he flips around, he trusted number 2 Robert Woods will draw the deep post safety with him because of all that green grass he's working towards, and he lets this go with a delayed blitzer coming through the B gap unblocked. Great adjustment to the ball by Nico as it's placed towards the outside shoulder, since Stroud doesn't know how far the safety will be away ultimately, having to let this go a beat early. Great diving grab and the setup of 1st and goal. Just watch it from the end zone view here. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, number 6 here, is right in Stroud's face as he releases that ball, but he speeds up that motion just enough to deliver this big time throw. Even though some conservative play calling would lead to them settling for 3 here, but that was about it for me to critique in this game with Slowik. Because that next drive was absolutely beautifully called, but my god, here's a gem from Stroud. Shotgun, tight bunch to the right, into the boundary. They're going to keep the tight end in protection for a 2x2 concept, with the back flaring out towards the field for a slant flat combination, while on the other side they send number 2 down the seam and then run another double move on the out and up with John Mechie. The Browns are in a single high alignment yet again, but this time they'll be playing cover 3, which means the corner over the bunch Denzel Ward here has to carry number 19 Xavier Hutchinson down the seam towards the safety, while Newsome once again is the guy the Texans want to attack here, as he's responsible for the flats, but ultimately has to turn with Mechie as he gets vertical, and understandably he's a little late to do so, because he doesn't even look out there. If Stroud waits this out, as this guy on the edge of the box has to clear it into the flats, it would open up a window for the slant in behind him, but the rookie knows that he has a big play. We'll look at the footwork in a second, but he ends up releasing this with both feet off the ground, yet perfectly drops it into the bucket for his receiver. This is teach tape for young quarterbacks in terms of pocket navigation. Stroud even throws in a little shoulder fake before he gets to the top of his drop, then sticks, shuffles, and climbs just enough before both feet leave the ground, and the flick of the wrist for another big play. Before 2 snaps later, Houston comes out in this double wing set again. They put Brevin Jordan in speed motion and fake the toss play to the right, which is how they started the drive on a big run by Devin Singletary. Only this time Stroud pivots back around as they set up the tunnel screen to Collins, with the left tackle and guards getting out in front, and Nico ends up leaping for the pylon and 6 points. The Browns would answer, but when the Texans got the ball back, it ended with a one-play 76-yard touchdown drive. This is 22 personnel, with Dalton Schultz coming across, so now you have tight ends to each hip of the offensive tackles, plus the fullback Andrew Beck in a wing alignment to the right. They fake inside zone to the weak side and boot Stroud the other way, for it initially looks like a 2-man concept between Beck on the corner route and Xavier Hutchinson coming across from the backside. However, not only do we have Schultz on kind of a delayed angle route against the initial flow of the play fake, but more importantly, number 9 Brevin Jordan also sneaking out late into the flats. Cleveland completely loses him. Stroud flips it out to him quickly, and now check out the tremendous blocking down the field by his teammates before Jordan cuts inside of Martin Emerson, who was just running with the drag across the field, and now that extra gear that he can access to pull away from the pursuit for a huge score. Next time they got the ball back, they would go 3 and out, with Stroud shockingly missing another touchdown throw to Collins against the busted coverage by the Browns, as he slips just a bit off the front foot, but that would end up being his only blunder of the day. Houston would get the ball back once more before halftime and put together a 5-minute touchdown drive covering 71 yards, with a couple of solid runs and misdirection throws like this, where they fake jet sweep one way and bring Collins underneath the formation for a nice gain on a simple leak towards where Stroud is booting. Although they would end up actually having to cover more than that, because after a holding call and tackle for loss on a toss play, they're set up with 2nd and 20 here. 21 personnel actually, with 2 wide receivers to the left, a tight end, and a fullback split out wide the other way. They motion him into a wing alignment, and now they take advantage of what they just showed the defense with the bootleg, as they fake the zone handoff to the left and have Mechie slide underneath the formation, and here this looks like a classic 3-level concept with the option in the flats, a corner up by Schultz, and then the intermediate crosser by Collins. Only this time Bobby Slowick reaches into his bag of tricks for a play the 49ers ran as the dagger in the regular season matchup against the Packers 4 years ago, when he was on that staff still. I'll put it on the screen here real quick, as you see Jimmy Garoppolo in this case stop off the boot action, with George Kittle acting like he's bending this out to the corner before sticking his foot in the ground for the big post, and he scores a long touchdown. So back to Saturday now. As you can probably tell already, Schultz is actually the one breaking this across. He's isolated with the rookie safety Ronnie Hickman in his too high look, since the field side safety has to drive down on Collins on the crosser, turns him all the way around, and catches this feathery ball from Stroud for a 37-yard score. Let's watch this from the quarterback's perspective now. He shows the ball to the defense on the fake, boots almost all the way out to the numbers, his eyes stay committed towards the right the whole way pretty much, until he finally settles here, and then delivers this long throw all the way across the field. Just beautiful. And like I said already, Stroud didn't have to do a whole lot anymore in the second half, thanks to a couple of defensive scores, but let me throw this one in for good measure. It's 3rd and 4, really interesting look for both sides here. Browns are desperate to get a stop, so they overload the left side, trying to create numbers here and get a free rusher. But instead of just sliding that way and potentially having somebody slip through, the Texans not only have the third down back Dario Ogunbowale, but also the tight end Dalton Schultz right next to him. They basically have left tackle Laramie Tunsil big on big against Myles Garrett, a matchup he took care of beautifully throughout the day by the way. They slide the 4 remaining linemen the other way, and those 2 quasi-personal protectors take care of any blitzes up the B-gap. So if one of those defenders towards the field drops out and muddies up this look, Stroud should have enough time anyway, but as it is, we once again have one man for the Browns, with double slants to the right and the shake what I'd call it by the X here. Number 2 Robert Woods gives the nickel a little shake off the snap to not lose the inside position, and now check out this lightning quick release by Stroud to move the chains, and 2 plays later Devin Singletary would score on a long run. As I mentioned in the intro, I don't want to get lost what offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick was cooking up here, because he remained patient enough with the run to keep the defense honest against all the play action stuff. That's kind of been the theme all season long for them, where they're not a very efficient rushing team, but in the grand scheme of things, it's important to how they want to package plays together. What that does, however, is ask Stroud to make several big time throws per game, and boy does he deliver. I already talked about how far along mentally he was all the way back following week 3, when I broke down some under the radar standouts of the early season, but he has continued to perform at an extremely high level, growing in certain areas, with pinpoint accuracy down the field, and way more out of structure playmaking ability than he was given credit for as a draft prospect. That was actually one of his main negatives on the scouting reports, because he didn't get to show it off a whole lot in Ohio State's offense. What I didn't show you here, and some plays that will never be on a highlight reel or anything like that, is him having a free rusher in his face and looping the ball over that guy's head to create like a 5-yard completion instead of negative plays. You rarely see defenses speed him up, but he already has a great understanding for angles and the play clock, so to speak. With a collection of young pass catchers around him, Slowick hopefully sticking around for another year, and the O-line showing improvement despite some shuffling around, the future is very bright for Stroud and this Texans offense. Now, however, they will travel to Baltimore this Sunday to take on the team they already faced back in week 1, when Houston failed to score double-digit points for the only time this season when Stroud's been available. That defense has gotten even better, but this should be an extremely fun quarterback matchup between Stroud and Lamar Jackson on the surface, yet I'm also super intrigued with the back and forth between Slowick as the Texans OC and Ravens DC Mike McDonald, who's been one of the elite defensive play callers in the league this year, plus what Stroud can sprinkle on top of what is there to be had as they try to pull off the upset on the road. Let's move on to the second quarterback now that I want to discuss here, the Packers' Jordan Love. So meanwhile, further up north in Dallas on Sunday, the 2-seeded Cowboys came into the matchup as the best team in terms of point differential at home for a season in over a decade. They would typically jump ahead on the scoreboard, and then the defense would just eat up their opponents, scoring 7 touchdowns themselves. However, this young Packers squad made a statement before the ball was even kicked off, as they won the coin toss and unlike most teams nowadays, elected to receive first. They went on to score touchdowns on 6 of the first 7 possessions, combined with an awesome Donald Savage pick 6 to put Green Bay up 48-16 before Dallas tried to rally late and make this look like a closer contest than it actually was. Through the first 3 quarters, the Packers only even got to third down 6 times, and Love converted on 4 of the 5 times the ball was put in his hands, with a nearly perfect passer rating on his 21 attempts. And let me mention here that Matt LaFleur's game plan heavily revolved around attacking an undersized second level for the Cowboys, with how much dime personnel they want to run, as Aaron Jones had 21 carries for 118 yards and 3 touchdowns. But the reason Dallas felt like they had to stick in that grouping, and even when the runs got stuffed, the Packers were able to sustain drives, were the big time throws by the quarterback, in particular off play action. So the Packers didn't just take the ball first, but they made use of it, putting together an impressive 12-play, 75-yard touchdown drive, which included a couple of tackles for loss in the run game early, before they got it going from that point onwards. However, this was the key play on the possession on a 2nd and 12. Packers covered in 12 personnel, with both tight ends to the left, and 2 wide receivers the other way. Soft play action fake on like a dive play towards the weak side, for what turns into a curl flats concept between the 2 tight ends, with Tucker Kraft on the late release into the flats. The back steps up through the B-gap and then curls up into that space that is voided by the linebackers. And then we've got a deep dagger concept at the bottom, where Christian Watson slightly stems this inside and pushes vertically at the deep half safety, with Romeo Doubs coming underneath it on a deep in cut. Love initially starts to the tight end side, and he could hit this flat route to Kraft for a small gain, but he knows that's not going to help them out too much here, so he backs out a little bit further, and as he recognizes the slot defender coming up on Jones, hooking up over the middle, instead of flying underneath this deep in cut, he lets this ball go off his back foot with an interior rusher in his face, and stops Doubs in that window as the receiver would be approaching ancillary zone defenders, and he pick up 22 yards here. When the Cowboys switch to a 5-man surface here, the Packers will take advantage of the one true linebacker on the field, number 33, as they have him outflanked with tight end Luke Musgrave on a simple flat route, and he outraces him to the sideline to set up the pack in the red zone before Aaron Jones ultimately punches it in from 3 yards away. Next drive, a 3rd and 9, they come out in a 3-by-1 set with a tight end to the right, and as Love makes the pre-snap jack here, probably decides to keep him in protection, and a 3-man variation of a Mills concept with number 2 on a corner route and a couple of deep inbreakers at around 20 yards, plus then it's actually Romeo Doubs in line almost, releasing late here. The Cowboys on the other hand make this look like it's basic cover 1 again, with one safety deep and Stephon Gilmore, a traditional outside corner, over number 3 Jaden Reed here. Yet what they'll do here is bail out number 2 Jordan Lewis from his nickel spot into the deep half, as they're actually in an inverted version of cover 2, where they drop out Micah Parsons from this double A-gap mug look, with a TE twist at the bottom. As they snap the ball, Love almost immediately rolls a little bit to the right, since he knows he has this tight end there that can help seal the spiking rusher, and there's nobody in contain. When we pause this here, however, it doesn't look good at all in terms of his receivers. Gilmore is walled off Reed, playing with inside leverage. Not that Love could really see it at this point, but the corner also slightly falling inside of the outside receiver, so now Doubs has to go behind his back first, and the deep 7 route obviously is off the board and are rolling the other way. Yet as Love sees Dante Fowler jump back to the outside to not allow him to run here, he stops and allows his tight end to get in front of the rusher again. And now because nobody in the shallow area gains enough depth, Love knows that the middle of the field has to be wide open, with Gilmore sticking to Reed and the outside corner on the other side staying flat here, instead of trying to find the crossing routes. So he once again sticks it on Doubs in that secondary window, whilst getting lit up. That drive would eventually stall thanks to a good rep all around in man coverage on the 3rd and long, but this is another example of Love moving the chains, even though the defense wins initially, buying time, and then finding a new platform to throw from. Awesome stuff. After a Jair Alexander interception, the Packers get the 1st and goal, but get called for holding, and now move back to the 16-yard line. However, LaFleur trusts his young quarterback to get them back close. They've got a little yo-yo motion with Dontavian Wicks, back into this tight bunch set to the right, with a spacing concept that way, and then we've got slant flats with the ex-receiver Doubs and the back. While the boundary safety does come down, it doesn't look like they would trail the motion here, and the corner over Doubs backs off a little bit just before the snap, which indicates cover 3 being the call, meaning this number 6 Darwin Wilson has to fly out into the flats to not get outflanked by the back. It's still going to be a pretty tight throw, but Love whistles this ball right by the helmet of the flat defender and hits Doubs on the slant all the way to the 1-yard line. Watch the quarterback's eyes here. Clearly understands how the motion affects the guys in coverage as he scans back and forth, and then as the ball is snapped, check out that quick look down the middle, which forces number 14 Marquise Bell to sit there on the spot route coming in his way, before Love flips over and hits Doubs. It's something small, but man, you can tell that it has an effect, and Aaron Jones punches in his 2nd touchdown on the next snap. When Green Bay gets the ball back, they put together their longest drive of the day, 10 plays, 93 yards, and another trip to the end zone. It all starts on this 3rd and 1, condensed set as they move the receiver to the right next to the hip of the tight end. But this is actually 11 personnel, so 3 receivers still on the field, forcing Dallas to match with dime. They're gonna fake split zone to the right, with Wicks sifting underneath the formation and leaking out into the flats. Reed on another spot route, which basically acts like traffic control, as it doesn't allow anybody to cut underneath Kraft on the over route. The Cowboys are in cover 3 again, by the way, even though the corner ends up trailing Kraft, since it becomes man wherever he goes, with 1-on-1 on the backside. I would argue that if Love just takes off here, maybe giving a little pump fake, he probably has the angle to get that 1 yard. But instead he squares those shoulders, booting to the left, so away from his throwing arm, and flips it to his tight end for 10 yards instead. It's not a long throw by any means, but one that most guys operating these wide zone and naked offenses, which LaFleur is based in from his days in San Francisco, at least aren't comfortable making, because they're not as twitchy or have the loose arm to set up and deliver here. Just watch how natural this looks for Love here. And then on the very next snap, they strike for the big play, still in the same personnel grouping, now with the tight end to the left side, and it's stacked the other way, a little further detached. You already see Reed at the bottom, being an extra step back, and he's going to come in jab motion, as he releases outside to basically become the new number 1 as you count outside in. You see the corner and nickel that way stay locked in on their guys, the linebackers bump over, and number 33 Clark picks up Reed on the motion whilst gaining depth and turning towards the sideline as he's probably scared of getting run by. That's a clear indication of cover 1, which is exactly what the Packers are looking for, as off the run fake to the right, they're just running off on the outside, have a skinny post by number 2 to force a bracket with the deep middle safety, and he creates all that space out here for Dobbs on the deep out, which he slow plays initially, then stems inside to force Jordan Lewis to flip with him, and now check out all the space he creates at the top of the route. He comes wide open, but this is still a concept that takes a long time to develop, and you've got Micah Parsons instantly beating the right tackle, and then getting around the back and protection helping out. Yet once again, Love gets those cleats into the turf, and without being able to step into the throw, lets this go, before Dobbs pulls away from the first tackle, and keeps going down the sideline for a 39-yard gain. I'm pretty annoyed actually that the All-22 doesn't show what happens here beforehand, so I had to add this from the broadcast. Green Bay's in empty personnel, Love initially gives a dummy snap count, and the Cowboys show him that they're bringing those 2 guys up the A-gaps, while playing cover 0 behind it, so man across the board. Back to the All-22 now, because you see that Love pulls in Kraft and sends Reed in motion, making this 7-man pass pro with extra blockers to either hip off the offensive tackles, while they slide the entire O-line to the left. And what this speed motion does here, you can even see the 2 DBs out here communicate for a potential switch. It gives Wicks inside leverage against Gilmore on the post routes, while they have the cross underneath and the fade by Dobbs on the backside. Wicks does a great job of stemming outside initially to give himself more room on the inside and not get cut off. Love hangs on the back foot for an extra beat and then rips this for a 20-yard score. That does not look like a first-year starter when you look at his ability to force the defense to surrender information before the snap, how he adjusts the protection to create enough time, and then to be able to drive this ball, again without being able to step up. Dare I say Aaron Rodgers-esque? That's a guy who's learned that system for the last 3 years and is ready to create his own legacy. And 3 more plays from the second half, which are more about cool designs and the arm talent for Love. On this first one, they're in 12 personnel, with Kraft in line, and number 81 Josiah DeGuara, their sort of H-back utility guy, as the offset receiver in this dirty bunch. Love brings him into the backfield for this offset I formation towards the weak side, yet he pivots right back around as they fake split zone that way. DeGuara sifts across and takes care of the backside edge defender, and they keep the quarterback in the pocket for this 2-man concept, which initially looks like Spear, a classic single high beater, where you cross the receivers at about 15 to 18 yards of depth in order to force that post defender to commit one way, while you have leverage across the field against those corners. Buffalo used to destroy the Patriots with this for a while. However, instead what they'll do here is shortly before that cross action, Dobbs will break back out to the corner and put Stephon Gilmore in hell, completely losing him, probably anticipating the action that he's seen so many times before as a member of Bill Belichick's defenses up in New England. Once again, this takes a while, and you need the protection to hold up, or as in this case, a quarterback like Love who can launch this thing whilst fading away, with Parsons once again closing in as he crashes through the tight end's shoulder, but the ball is good enough and it leads to another huge gain of 46 yards. Check this out once more from the quarterback's perspective, because number 11 on the other side has to be sick to his stomach about the amount of times he was this close, and probably forces an errant throw against like 25 other quarterback. Insane throw whilst getting lit up. And that would set up touchdown number 3 for Aaron Jones later. The next possession starts with a couple of big runs by Jones, and then Metal Flow decides that it's time to take another shot. So on 1st and 10, they start in a tight bunch to the right from 12 personnel. They motion Luke Musgrave over into an A set, and after faking split zone to the right, they have Romeo Doubs to the left on an inside stem corner route, along with Christian Watson on the intermediate crosser. However, the one guy the defense completely loses here is Musgrave, who initially acts like he's secure in the backside, then slips underneath the linebacker before turning this thing vertically on a drag and up. And as we stop this here, when he's about at the 30-yard line, you have the two corners sticking with their receivers, the post safety also turned that way at about the 15-yard line, the flat defender is drawn up by the run fake, and this could still potentially be a throwback screen to Jones. So even on what turns out to be Love's worst throw of the day, because he wants to get this out early and turns it into a trick shot, which forces Musgrave to come to a complete stop, he isn't even touched until he's a couple of yards away from the end zone, on this 38-yard neck-breaking score. And now, the piece de resistance, Packers already up 41-16, but instead of kicking a meaningless field goal, they go for it on this 4th and 2. They're in this ace duo set, so 2 tight ends to the left, and twins the other way. They make this look like a classic pick play, off the inside zone fake from the shotgun, where Christian Watson works to the back pylon, while Dobbs spots up over the middle and shields number 14, trying to cut off the tight end Tucker Kraft on a leak route against the flow of the initial run fake, as he has to bump out and overtake this, and this may very well be an option to hit it if the defender just runs into Dobbs, but in this case, the receiver settles in that space, and now check out this insane sidearm laser from Love across his body, right by number 28. I mean, are you freaking kidding me? Watch it one more time and tell me how many guys in the league would even attempt, much less hit this throw. Like 3? Maybe 4? That is preposterous. And this entire Jordan Love performance elevated him into that superstar status for right now. Matt LaFleur deserves his flowers for constantly being a step ahead of what has been a very good defensive coordinator in Dan Quinn over the last few years, taking advantage of smaller bodies on the field, using tendencies against defenders in coverage who looked absolutely lost, and allowing his quarterback to be this aggressive against what has been the most opportunistic defense in the league over the last 3 years. But the pre-snap knowledge of defenses, the understanding of the system and the adjustments he can make within it, the trust in his guys up front as well as on the back end of those throws, the fadeaway jump shots with guys barreling in on him on those longer developing concepts, plus then the secondary reaction stuff to buy extra time and reset, it was truly a masterful performance. And while it reached new heights on Sunday, this is not the start of Love's transformation. Since the Chargers game in Week 11, so his last 8 showings, he's completing just over 70% of his passes, accounting for 23 touchdowns, compared to only 1 interception. Those are absolutely insane numbers, and that run included some pretty tough matchups. I know the Packers are about to travel to San Francisco, LaFleur's kryptonite over the years, and it's still relatively early, but while a lot of Love's story is still going to be written, I feel pretty good about saying he's one of those true difference makers at the position, which we have like 8 or 9 guys of across the entire NFL. That's gonna do it for this video though. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please make sure to let me know by smashing that like button. If you want to see more of these, subscribe and hit the bell. And if you could share with a friend or two, I'd consider it a personal favor, thank you. As I already mentioned, both Stroud and Love are about to go up against the 2 superpowers in either conference after having a week off. So maybe not the best time to make a video like this, as they're about to face the biggest challenges of their young careers. But nothing they've shown us so far would make me believe the moment will be too big for them. And even if they fall short here, both of these franchises and the fan bases should be highly encouraged by what they've seen so far. As for me, I'll probably put out something in written form next week, whether that's directly on the conference championship games, maybe taking a bit of a broader view of the NFL coaching landscape. We'll have to see. Maybe I also feel so compelled by something happening in the divisional round that I do want to dive into the tape with you guys anyway. Either way, you can expect more content like this from me. To stay up to date with everything that I do, feel free to follow me on social media, where I also throw out my betting picks every week, random thoughts around the sport, and comment on the games whilst they're happening. Links are down below in the video description, along with the one to my page helloswithfootballtalk.com, where you can find all my work in one place, including my version of the NFL's All Rookie team, which I posted last week. Make sure to check in next week again. So until then, see you later. Peace!